for a review of the main opposition's presidential aspirants. We're now being joined by lawyer and political analyst Liborous Oshomo, and from our overflow studio by Arise Analyst Mahmud Jega. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the program. And of course, looking at this, 15 of them jostling for that one ticket. Some have been described as contenders, others pretenders. But we'll get to that. But let's start with all of them individually. Liborous, I want to start with you. Let's talk about Atiku Abubakar, because if you look at the list of aspirants, 5 of them from the north. Atiku Abubakar, 70-year-old, looking to become Nigeria's next president. Let's talk about some of his strengths and what you think are his weaknesses.
Yeah, thank you. But before I talk about Atiku Abubakar, I would want to say this, that of all the aspirants, I really have not heard any of them talk about what Nigeria actually need now. Nigeria, with this false unity in Nigeria will not lead Nigeria anywhere. I say this with all sense of modesty. There's a program I titled United We Fall, Divided We Stand. And so until we learn to unbundle Nigeria, restructure it, and function, individually, that in a different area of strength, like from the regions, we will never move forward. So all of these candidates and individuals will just be talking about solving the problems of Nigeria, talking about the collapse of the industries and the rest. What led to the collapse and the suspicion, the mutual suspicions, are things you can't just wish away. So until we do that, we're just going to rigmarole, just like we did in 2015. And then now talk about the candidature of Atiku Abubakar.
Yeah, very quickly, because we don't have much time.
It's also a notorious fact that presently he seems to be the strongest contender in the PDP, having consistently vied for the office of the president. Its area of strength, he has a wider reach amongst all of them. He was also it's been a candidate in the APC, in ACN, in APC, and now in PDP. Those are some of the areas of those are some of the challenges that he might face, because he has been consistently inconsistent. If he doesn't get it in one platform, he moves to the next platform. So people seem, and in politics, when you're too desperate for something, it raises a red flag. So those are some of the challenges.
All right, the next person is Abubakar Bukola Saraki. Let's bring this to you. Mahmud Jega, I mean, he refers to himself, talking about Saraki, as the unifier. What does he bring to the table? What are his strengths and weaknesses?
Well, he is one of the best known candidates in the field of all parties, former Senate president and former 2-term governor of Kwara State. So he's very, very visible, and as you said, he has been campaigning as a bridge builder. He said he is a bridge builder between North and South, between Muslims and Christians, between young and old, between the private sector and the public sector, and also between the executive and the legislative branches of government. So he is quite a formidable candidate.
Right, and of course, the next person we need to take a look at is the current governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal. Of course, he used to be the former Speaker of the House of Representatives. Liborous, let's talk about him and some of his strengths, and of course, his weaknesses.
Yeah, for Aminu Tambuwal, yeah, as Speaker of the House of Representatives, was somebody who, despite being from the north, a lot of politicians from the south saw him as a bridge builder, if you permit me to borrow Saraki's word, But after the 2019, and during the 2019 election, some of the governors, especially Uyeson Wike, saw him as, also a young and vibrant candidate from the north who they could all support. But unfortunately for him, almost everybody that is supporting him at that time are all contestants today. Yeah. So, and apart from the fact that because of his strength in the 2019 election primaries, he's really not too visible, in terms of campaigns, like you've seen other contestants move around from, just like you see Peter Obi doing. So he's really not too visible, apart from the fact that, yes, he's a contestant and he contested before. So,
all right, Mahmud Jega, how visible is Bala Mohammed? He's a 63-year-old politician who served as FCT minister. Strengths and weaknesses. Can he pick up the ticket for the PDP?
Well, he is also very well known because he was the minister of the FCT for 4 years under the Jonathan administration, and in the last 3 years he has been the governor of Bauchi State. Part of the problem is that he complicated his politics by pledging excessive loyalty to former President Jonathan, who was speculated to be considering a run on the APC ticket, whereas Governor Bala himself is in PDP, and he said he will never contest against his mentor, President Jonathan. So there was even doubt as to whether he was planning to cross over to APC, probably if President Jonathan had entered the race. So that's part of the thing that has complicated his aspiration this time.
Let's come back to you. Bala Mohammed, there are reports that he might also still want to, still remain the governor of Bauchi State if he doesn't become the candidate of the PDP. But let's talk about
Plan B, you might say.
Yeah, you know, we're seeing that move around a lot these days. Let's talk about Mohammed Hayatuddin. You want to call him the youngest politician, not by age now, but for the fact that he just picked up that membership form of the PDP just in February of this year. Let's talk about his strengths and his weaknesses.
Yeah, I would quickly permit me. Most of these, most of these governors that are contested, just like it happened with Tambuwa, they always have a plan B. They collect the governorship nomination form for second term, and then while they pursue that presidential ambition. But for Hayatuddin, he's been in the private sector. Ordinarily, if Nigeria were a country where you say achievements and antecedents would be a quality that people look at. These are the kind of candidate that ordinarily, people should be looking at, irrespective of where it's from. But being a late entrant into the party, we'll talk about the structures of the party. How many of the delegates really can he assess, in terms of nomination now? And so for that, if you look at it from that point of view, and for PDP, for what it's known for, it will be difficult for him, to carry the day, except, he has, backers from, like the owners of Nigeria, like Dele Momodu described them.
Well, I'd like to hope that we are all owners of Nigeria. Let's move to candidates of the PDP from the southern part of the country. Anyim Pius Anyim, well, he was Senate President at the age of 40. He is 61 years old now. He says he's the best man as far as the Southeast is concerned, as far as Nigeria is concerned, to be the next president. Mahmud Jega.
Yeah, as you said, he was a former Senate President, therefore he's a household name in Nigeria. He worked very hard in recent weeks and lobbied to get PDP to zone its presidential ticket to the Southeast, because that would have improved his chances. Even though even in the Southeast he is probably not the most visible candidate because apparently he has not been campaigning as conspicuously as, let's say, Peter Obi, but he is a very important candidate as a former Senate President and Secretary to the government of the Federation.
Right, and of course the truth is they have been moving around. Not all of them get reported, but I know they are canvassing for votes from the delegates. And Liborous, let me come to you right now. Ayo Fayose, former governor of Ekiti State, they want to call him the godfather of PDP in Ekiti State. He's actually really been quiet, but what are his chances and his strengths?
Let's not delude ourselves, really. Some of these people, the way you describe them, some are contenders, some are pretenders. Somebody like Ayo Fayose, I don't see him as a contender. Let's when we talk about candidature nomination, it's not just about your state delegate. You need to reach out to delegate across board. So, and for some of these contestants, people like Ayo Fayose, for example, I do not see him. I don't see him being able to assess delegates from even around the Southwest. To be difficult for him to harness all the delegates from the Southwest, not to talk of delegate from other region. And then this his style of politics.
He popularized stomach infrastructure.
Yes, and so that's what I'm saying. His style of politics, is the kind of politics that a lot of people want to go do away with in Nigeria of today. This idea of sharing, like Peter Obi said, look, what we are sharing it's finished. So we should be thinking of how to create and not Amala style of politics. And so that style of Amala style of politics, died with Badedibu, and anybody that have even attempt to resurrect it today, would just be a pretender and not a contender.
All right, but we still love our Amala anyway, yes. Either with Begiri or not. Both of you gentlemen, do stay with us. We're still going to continue with this. Of course, still a number of people on the list of contenders for the PDP. Stay with us.
Welcome back, and of course you're still watching Newsnight here on Arise News from Nigeria's capital Abuja. I am Amaka Ude.
And I am Ngozi Alebu. Well, we're still dissecting, looking at the contenders and maybe the pretenders and the PDP who want to take over President Buhari's job. Mahmud Jega is a Arise Analyst, is in our Overflow studio, and Liborous Oshomo is right here with us in the studio. Well, the next man we have for you is in the person of Chikwendo Kalu. I wonder if it's a name that rings the bell as far as you're concerned, Mahmud Jega. He's 56-year-old, and he's the immediate past Speaker of Abia State and former legal advisor of the PDP. What are his strengths and weaknesses?
I think the beginning of a successful presidential run is to have wide name recognition across the country. And possibly if the highest position that Mr. Kalu held was Speaker of the Abia State House of Assembly, probably he should be running by now for Governor of Abia State. So he does not look like a powerful contender in this race.
Well, the next person is Dele Momodu. This is one person who has actually been clamoring for the ticket of the PDP to be thrown open. Now he's got his wish. But Liborous, let's come to you. What are his strengths and his weaknesses, really? Yeah,
if those of us who are on Twitter and on Facebook and Instagram are, even dare to register as members of political party, people like Dele Momodu would have had, would have been pulled apart, with in the midst of others. But unfortunately, those of us who are in his constituencies are not members of any of these political parties. And he's come from the private sector. He's been very vociferous. He was in support of the APC, President Buhari's candidature. He contested once, and but didn't go far, and supported President Buhari in 2015, but turned around when things didn't go the way he had expected. And he's a man of conviction, but unfortunately people who are in his constituencies are not in the political party, and so you find him, it's somebody who is in the midst of strange bedfellow. As good as he is, it's unfortunate, and it will be difficult for him to clinch a PDP presidential ticket because he's in the wrong place.
Mahmud Jega, the next man is Nyesom Wike. That definitely is not a name that does not ring a bell. Rings more than a bell. 59, he says Nigeria needs a madman, and he's the man to fix a country that he calls a bit mad too. What's your take?
Yeah, he does not just ring a bell. He rings drums across the country. You see, since 2015, when PDP lost power at the presidential level, Governor Wike was regarded as almost the most powerful man in PDP. He installed the national leadership. He was central to bankrolling the party. He was very visible. And he was also very effective in terms of infrastructural projects in his river state. However, his politics is quite crude. His language is also quite something else. And probably many Nigerians may think that that is not the material for the presidency, dynamic and well-known though he is.
And do you need a rugged man to deliver, or do you need a cool man who will not deliver? That argument is in the way.
Absolutely. Liborous, let's come back to you and talk about the 60-year-old astute businessman from Anambra State who's actually been on the mission to actually speak to delegates one-on-one. He's actually visited 34 out of the 36 states in the Federation, and he plans to go everywhere before the 28th of May. Let's talk about Peter Obi and his chances, really.
Yeah, one of the most energetic candidates the PDP has to offer. Even though a lot of people felt at the initial stage he was a bit reluctant. You know, maybe he probably was weighing his chances. Polls consistently had given him, you know, the lead. But he's a man of data. Some persons have argued and queried with those data, how accurate they are. And then he's somebody, he has, you know, antecedents that you can point to in business, even in politics. But the problem is, a lot of people also have queried with his rationale for saving money, even in the midst of lack of massive infrastructure and infrastructural revolution. And what Anambra has become today also is a style of succession. But that said, another thing is the fact that the kind of person Peter Obi is not the kind of politics we play today is politics of money. But the question would be, will Peter Obi be able to spend the kind of money that the candidates in PDP, you know, will spend to clinch the presidential ticket? The answer, you know, both of us know. But lastly, quickly on his candidature also, a lot of people that want Peter Obi, this is my advice to people now, a lot of people that want Peter Obi, majority of them need to register to vote, to participate in the election, or even participate in the party for him to actually emerge. Because even if he emerges, he will have the APC to contend with, depending on where the candidate comes from.
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, it's one thing to support, it's another thing to actually do what it takes. Sam Ohuabunwa is our next man, 70-year-old pharmacist and former president of Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. He's been campaigning for a while now. He's been a bit visible on the stump. Sam Ohuabunwa, Mahmud Jega, what do you think? His strengths, his weaknesses?
Mazi Sam Ohuabunwa is also very well known, mostly as a private sector person. He is one of the country's leading pharmacists. He headed one of the biggest pharmaceutical firms, Nemet, and he also headed the Pharmaceutical Society. He's very well known in the public sector, but he is a relatively new entrant into politics. It is even his brother, Mao Ohuabunwa, who was a bit better known because he was a member of the House of Representatives from the beginning of this republic. So although he has been campaigning very energetically all over the country since last year at least, but possibly he may not be counted among the front runners in this PDP race right now.
Well, Liborous, let me find out from you if the only female aspirant can be counted amongst some of the top contenders. Well, she's 36 years old, talking about Terila Diane Olive, but she says she's been in politics for about 15 years. What are her strengths, her weaknesses, her chances, really?
I never heard of her until now. And like Mahmoud said, one of the criteria is visibility, not just amongst delegates, even among voters. You know, awesome, young, she has age on her side. But the question, if just the same way, what's the name of this woman that contested PDP presidential primaries with against Obasanjo? You know, she came with a lot of ladies to that convention. Sarah Jubri, but at the end of the day, she had only one vote or two votes or so. One vote. So, young Teraba, and I do not also, I've not really seen, even though you said that a lot of them have been campaigning, but you know, but unreported, but I've really also not seen her, you know, reach out to as much delegate as the top contender. So I really don't see her, you know, having any chance even at the first five. But that is a plus for her. It's a plus for her that she's out. And maybe a few years from now, should be among the top two.
All right, Ugu Okudele, believed to be in his 60s, is said to be a grassroots politician. How much of him do you know, and how will he factor in all of this? Mahmud Jega.
Ugu, the former Minister of Transport. I hope I'm not confusing names, but there was the former president of the Manufacturers Association, Dr. Charles Ugu, and former minister, I think, under the Eradua regime for 1 year. I don't know whether it's this one or is the one who is said to be a US-based medical practitioner. I'm a bit confused about the names.
Tried also to get his profile, and it's a bit, we're as confused as you are.
Honestly, and the US-based medical practitioner was actually part of those who were screened out, speaking about Wachiku and Nakwenze. But let's talk to you, Liborous, real quick. The final one of the 15 who, of course, got the clear from the screening committee is the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Udom Emmanuel. He said he's actually done fantastically well for his state, and he intends to replicate what he has achieved so far at the center.
For me, first and foremost, you want to be a president of Nigeria. Right from after the first republic, we've had people who had been asked to come and go, and not because they truly believe that. You know, the moment a form is purchased for you, I don't see you as a serious runner. People purchase form for you because they want you to, so that you are not convinced. Yes, he's done well in the state as a governor, but we also know that the politics of state government is different from politics at the center, where the state governor holds the House of Assembly. You know, the House of Assembly is almost an appendage. Popular guy, he's been at the private sector, was a banker, but if you position him with his likes like Peter Obi, he doesn't even come near. And so if we're still looking at Peter Obi's position in as far as the #1 seat is concerned, I don't think Udom Emmanuel also has can go far in terms of amongst the first 4. Is not even there.
All right, well, we'll have to thank you very much. We hope we've been able to line up more of contenders than pretenders on this list. Liborous Oshomo is a lawyer and political affairs analyst. Thank you so much. Mahmud Jega, Arise News analyst. Thank you for your brilliant contributions tonight.